So we've had the presentation, the last one in the season, and you've done closed ones, you've done open ones, and I think there was less than 20 people at this one today. That must be disappointing.
Yeah, yes, it is, but I can tell you something. I've really enjoyed it, and the engagement tonight, and right the way through, has been terrific. We've learned a huge amount in the whole process, and that was part of it. Government has to reinvent itself, but we can only do that with full engagement with the people of the Isle of Man. And we'll go away now, Eddie and I and other ministers, and look at the responses that we've had and work them into the ideas and proposals that we've got, and then come out again. And Eddie will tell you that he's out with the welfare debate next, effectively.
Yeah. So this has been very insightful, because what we found is that the responses from this meeting tonight to a couple of the questions in particular were completely different from the previous responses. So Chris and I need to have a chat and try and work out why that happened. Maybe we didn't put the case over as well, but we need to talk it through.
Well, I've left it to the end because I thought, you took a bit of holding the thing down, you changed the questions you said in the past, but it still seemed to be leading people down what I'd call the bleeding obvious, really. You were almost expecting the result to be number 1 or 2, and you didn't quite get it here tonight, admittedly, but there was only 17 people voting, I think.
What you're missing here is the engagement that goes on through the evening. I mean, the voting arrives at a particular point after a debate on each subject, and we've had that right the way through the whole series, and it's been absolutely fascinating. And it helps us to understand better people's concerns and fears and expectations, and we'll take that on board. I
mean, a small audience, but as you say, very vocal. You weren't
all the audiences, Paul, have been vocal, and it's, you could almost call this process a type of focus group with different communities around the Isle of Man as we move towards these fundamental changes that we want to make, and it's been a very helpful process.
Are you not disappointed maybe that the audience age is pretty well what you'd expect? There's no youth really here at all today. Mostly, I'd say, retired. Wouldn't be a bit amiss, would it?
That was the exception tonight. In previous meetings, we've had a real broad age range. I can't take credit for the way it was organised at first, because it was Chris's idea that we would in effect invite people to come. And because they were invited on a random basis, there was a nice age range. It wasn't dominated by one particular sector of the community, and we got people out who would never normally go to a public meeting, and more importantly, they talked as well.
So in other words, you're saying that having an invite land in your post box is probably a better way than just having an open meeting and getting so few people for the whole area turning up.
I think that the turnouts have somewhat proved that. I think this was valuable in a different way, so let's not choose one or the other. But I do believe that we got people engaged who otherwise wouldn't come to these sort of meetings at all, so it was helpful.
So what do you go back and, you've got all this data now, haven't you? What are you now going to do?
Well, we're going to sit down and we will go through the data, see whether there's a consistent view on the questions asked, and what we can learn, not only from the responses to those questions, but also the feedback that we've had during these presentations as well. Because this wasn't a one-way street. We weren't lecturing them. We were here, unusual for politicians. We remembered that we had one mouth and 2 ears, and we were certainly prepared to use our ears in that ratio.